Hi everyone, my name's Mark Walmsley and I'm the founder of the Arts and Culture Network. This is my opportunity to introduce a new member to you. I'm delighted that Sophie Hamlet has joined me today. Sophie, thank you so much for joining me.
It's great to be here.
It's a Friday afternoon in March. This is the last appointment of my week and it's a lovely way to end the week. Sophie is a full member of the Arts and Culture Network. We're member funded so that we can be independent of sponsors, advertisers and grant making bodies. So that's us. So Sophie, for the benefit of those who haven't had the pleasure of meeting you already, as I have, perhaps you'd be kind enough to tell us a little bit about you and the work you do.
Absolutely. By day, I work as an auditor and chartered accountant in the city. So I work in out of Moorgate. My clients tend to primarily be not-for-profit and charitable organisations, and outside of that, I volunteer my skills on various arts charity boards, notably organisations such as Greenwich Theatre, Icon Theatre, and a couple of others to note as well. So that's my way of sort of giving back and really sort of helping to support the arts any way I can.
Well, as the chair at Culture Chelmsford, I know we couldn't do what we do without the generous donation of your time and others. So thank you so much for doing that. That's great. Wherever this appears, there'll be links to you and the various organizations that you support. So we're going to jump straight in and I'm going to create your fantasy cultural year from the answers to 10 questions. Now, it's great fun. People have described it as positive therapy. It's decidedly unconventional as an interview style, but it does have the benefit of pulling out anecdotes, tangents, preferences, surprises, and sometimes some laughs. So I'm looking forward to doing this with you. Right, so to set the scene, I need you to think about your favorite building for a moment, where that might be, what it might be. And have you got one?
I do, yes.
What is it?
It's the Bristol Old Vic. So originally I hail from the southwest of England, and when I was at college, I was studying the dramatic arts, so arts in terms of just drama and theatre studies, and that was where we always used to go as part of our studies to see real theatre in action. So it's always been a place that's very, very close to my heart.
Brilliant. Love it. Now, I'd like you to imagine you're sitting at a street side cafe within sight of the Bristol Old Vic. Okay. It's 6 p.m. and it's sunny and it's June. And on the right of you there, enjoying the view and the memories that the view gives you, is a book. Now, that book could be a book that's been with you all your life that you reread. It could be a recent discovery. It could be a guide that you've used, or simply one of your favorite books. What book is on your right there?
It's J.R.R. Tolkien's Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, I read that every year.
Yeah, yeah,
I think
yeah.
I've read it every year since I was 11. Um, and yeah, I was so excited when the latest movies came out. They were probably brought out before you were born, but perhaps not. I don't know. What was it
Um,
called?
no, I not to give too much away, but I'm in my mid to late 30s, so
Right,
I was around when the Peter Jackson films came out, certainly.
right. Well, I was so excited. I was running a web design agency at the time, and we did Super Tuesday, which was the first day you could watch all of them. And so we closed the office, told all our clients we were out for the day. We called it a training day. I was the boss, so I said, no, we're having a away day. So we all everyone came over to my house. About 15 of us came over to my house, and we watched the director's cut of the first one. In
The
the
only way to watch it, the only way to watch it.
Yeah, and then we had lunch, and then we watched the director's cut of the Two Towers.
Hmm.
And then we all jumped on the train up to Leicester Square to watch the first available public showing of the Return of the King. So we did the whole all of them in one. And I haven't got it to hand, but I'd love to show it to you. But my brother is a cellist and he played on the soundtracks. And they were at Abbey Road, I think, on one occasion. And Peter Jackson and Howard Shaw, the composer, were there with the Oscar. I think they were probably recording for The Hobbit, which was later, but and my brother nipped out, took a picture. This was before, I don't think he had a decent camera on his phone. He nipped to Snappy Snaps, where they used to quickly to develop them.
Yeah.
It's a picture of Peter Jackson and Howard Shore sitting behind the mixing desk holding the Oscar. He ran it back to the studio and got them both to sign it. And that I've still got, which is and that was my birthday present. Huge value to me, but it didn't cost him anything really. So yeah, I'm with you with Lord of the Rings. Absolutely. It's can I give you a bit of a trivia quiz?
You give it a go. Yeah, absolutely.
Can you name the character who's prominent in the book but not in the film, not anywhere in the film?
Tom Bombadil.
Yeah, got it in one.
I
Fantastic.
go back and forth as to whether or not it was a good or a bad thing that he wasn't included in the films, but
I would rather they missed him than some of the others.
yeah.
I think so. But I gather that it cost $300 million to make all three movies. And the first movie took $600 million at the box office. So you can imagine the money rolling around. I mean, that's before DVDs, that's before streaming. Quite incredible. I love the story of when he went to New Line Cinema trying to pitch it as two movies.
And they said, why not three?
Yeah,
Yeah.
they said, no, this is not two movies. And his heart sank. And I think it might have been Harvey Weinstein even.
Yeah.
Said, no, this is three movies. And it's fantastic. You get a bit lost in the middle in the two towers. It kind of doesn't end. But yeah, one incredible achievement.
It's something that has stuck with me. I mean, I was a teenager when they came out, and just the writings of Tolkien have been quite a big part of my life since I was probably about 9 years old. I was reading The Hobbit at school, and yeah, it's all kind of, there's a lot of emotional connections to just, so yeah.
Yeah, love it. Oh, well, we have that in common. There you go. There's the first anecdote. So the book's there now. It's sunny and it's warm, and you can have whatever you like to drink. It's on your left. What's there?
A black coffee.
Sugar or no sugar?
No sugar, just as it is. Maybe a splash of cold water so that it's not too hot. But
Right.
yeah, nice and cool.
Excellent. Now you're feeling quite pleased with yourself because you've been at a meeting in the Bristol Old Vic with some old colleagues who have been appointed as the advisors to a wealthy Bristolian family who are arts supporters. Okay. And you've been recommended as the person for this year-long study trip. Okay. They'd like to fund you to go to another country and another city in that country for a year to immerse yourself in the arts and culture, non-for-profit, charitable landscape in that city. It's first class all the way, a lovely apartment when you get there, a generous fee, everything is covered at home. They're appointing a virtual PA to sort out your personal admin at home while you're away. You can take family members if you wish, or have them visit during the year. That's all paid for as well. So your friends have nominated you as being the ideal person to do this, and it sounds like a fun trip. You get to choose where you go.
That's quite a difficult one. My gut feel would be either Paris, because I mean the access to arts there is incredible. I did a trip, was almost like a kind of like an informal school exchange, except it wasn't through school. It was more connections that my dad had with someone who worked and lived in France. So age 14, I got on the Eurostar and went to Paris to sort of stay with another family for a week, and we did the Louvre, we did everything there was to do in Paris. So that's somewhere that's again very, very close to my heart. Either that or Bologna, because the architecture is just so fascinating there.
Bologna.
Bologna, yeah, in Italy.
I'm going to have to pin you down for one of those.
I'd have to go Paris. I think I'd have to go Paris. Partly because my French is slightly better than my Italian, but
Okay. That's great. Well, you're going to be fluent by the time you come back, by the way.
Indeed. Yeah.
And excellent. Yeah, Paris and the Louvre. My favorite painting in there is the raft of the Medusa, Jericho. And where a big toenail is this big, you know. I mean, it's huge, and I just don't understand how somebody can, unless they've got a 12-foot brush, I don't understand how they can be up this close doing something and then step back, and it all
The
comes
scale,
together.
yeah, it's
It's staggering. Right, great start. Okay, so you're on the Eurostar, first class all the way, with your things for a year, and at Gare du Nord, I think it is, a group of French colleagues who've been appointed as your minders meet you off the train with your name on a card, and they take you to an amazing rooftop terrace apartment overlooking the Bois de Boulogne, and that's your home for the year. Okay, you've got a maid and a pub and a cook, and a butler in this fantasy trip. Wouldn't it be lovely if the Arts Council provided all of this?
wouldn't
it? They say, have a rest, unpack, settle in. We're going to take you to a dance performance, and then we're going to take you out to dinner. You get to choose what the dance performance is, and because it's a magical fantasy year, it can be any dancer, with us or not, any dance group or any dance style. You get to choose.
My knowledge of dance is fairly limited, I'm not going to lie, but I think what I find the most interesting is more contemporary interpretive dance. That's something that very much speaks to me, and mainly because you don't necessarily need to understand the concept as long as the emotions are being conveyed. And that does happen with ballet, don't get me wrong, but I feel more connected, I suppose, with the more contemporary movement styles.
Okay, I'm going to give you a treat from on behalf of one of our other members. Ben Love is the director of Ballet Soul, and they fuse African movement styles with classical ballet to produce something entirely new. And they've done a wonderful film of Othello, danced in the City of London over the weekend when it was dark. So for the purposes of that, I think you'll really enjoy that. So that's Othello, Ballet Soul. Excellent. You love the show, you meet the dancers, and your friends are going to take you out to dinner. Couldn't be very many better places to go out to dinner than Paris. You've chosen well there. Plenty of Michelin star restaurants. Now, you don't have to stay Parisian. You can choose any national cuisine you wish. What do you fancy?
I'm a big fan of Indian cuisine, so particularly more Indian Bangladeshi-esque cuisine.
Okay, so we're going to take you to a Michelin star modern fusion Indian Bangladeshi restaurant. Does that sound good?
Sounds perfect, yeah.
People have described this as therapy in the past. Now, the next day in Paris is Sport Day, and sport involves performance art, arguably. And you can either spectate or watch, and you can choose any sport to watch for a couple of hours on Saturday afternoon.
Mm. In terms of sport, I would probably pick watching rugby. That's really my sport of choice that I enjoy.
Yeah, I love rugby. What's the difference between rugby and football? Football is a game for gentlemen played by ruffians, and rugby is a game for ruffians played by gentlemen.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love it. Absolutely. We're approaching the end of the Six Nations, aren't we? I think.
We are, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been quite.
England aren't in the running, are we?
No, we're not. A couple of close calls, but yeah, it's been an interesting season, certainly.
It has. I was actually quite pleased for Scotland.
That nail biter, an absolute biter against
Ireland. Really was. Excellent. Okay, so we've done the sport day. Now the next day is visual art day. And in Paris, there is a new digital immersive art gallery that uses projection, screens, immersive surround sound, immersive technologies, and they also have a radical new VR space, and you can put a headset on and step into a 3D render of a painting. So, for example, well, the painting is in 2 dimensions from the artist. Now, AI is used to analyze the painting style, so that once everything is pulled apart and separated so that you can step into it, the AI puts in the back of that character or what's behind that wall, so that you can move around in this space, and you can choose any artist and any painting to step into. What would you go for?
I can't quite remember what the name of it is, but it's one of the very famous Claude Monet ones, with the bridge and the willow hanging down. It's very sort of muted blues, greens, teals, with a very small bit of pink with the lily pads on the river. And I cannot remember what it's called, but it's one that
I found some here. Perhaps you'd like to tell us which one it is. Let me share the screen. There we go. This should help.
Oh, it is the first one. It's the first one.
This one?
Yeah, the water lilies.
Water lilies. That's beautiful. Yeah, there we go. Isn't that great?
Yeah. So when I was in primary school, we used to do art projects where we would do a guided creation of famous paintings. So we did Van Gogh, we did Monet, and this was the first one that we did as a class. It must be class 2.
Yeah, beautiful. Okay, so that's going to be recreated in 3 dimensions, and you will have 360-degree headset on, and you can walk over that bridge.
Amazing.
Someone somewhere has probably invented this already, but there we go. Excellent. Okay. Now, to lighten the mood next day, we're going to give you an opportunity to choose any play or musical. And you can have the original cast. You're there in the prime seat with your friends there. You can have anybody you like on stage, play, musical, or perhaps an opera.
I would have to pick Natasha Pierre and the Great Comet of 1812 with the Broadway cast. So Lucas Steele, Janae Benton, Josh Groban. That would be the musical that I would.
What was the title of the musical again?
Natasha Pierre and the Great Comet of 1812.
Natasha Pierre and the Great Comet of 1812.
Yeah.
Never heard of it. I must look it. I must watch it.
I've never actually seen it. I've only ever listened to the songs from the soundtrack, but Dave Malloy has quite a talent for music.
Yeah.
He's very good at mixing different styles together. So
that's a new one on me. So thank you, and it's an education for me as well. Which is excellent. The next day is film day, and your Parisian friends have asked you to select a movie that you love, that you think they'll love, that they probably haven't seen before.
That they probably haven't seen before.
Or may not have seen, or unlikely to have seen, perhaps. So it can be obscure, if you wish.
I'm just trying to, yeah. Not particularly obscure, but one of my favorite films. And one that I will always watch if I'm feeling ill or if I need cheering up is The Princess Bride from back in 1987.
Nice. Is that what's her name? Anne Hathaway?
No, that's Carrie Ellis and Robin Wright back in the 80s.
Oh, yes. Got it. The Princess Bride.
Oh no, that's The Princess Diaries, I think, Anne Hathaway.
Oh yes.
Yeah, Princess Diaries. Yeah.
Right. Little trivia question for you.
Okay.
Can you name one of only 3 movies that won the Big 5 at the Oscars for the same film? So it won Best Film, Best Director, Best Actor in a Leading Role, Best Female Actor in a Leading Role, and best screenplay. Only 3 films have done it.
I feel like one of the Lord of the Rings films has to be in that list somewhere.
One of the
Lord of the Rings films has to be in that list somewhere, surely.
I'm afraid it's not.
They're not.
No.
Oh.
Only 3 have ever done it.
Oh. I don't know.
Shall I put you out of your misery?
Yes, that would bug me.
One is Silence of the Lambs. Another is One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. And I can't remember the third, but I think it's called It Happened One Day from 1934. So yeah. And have you heard of an EGOT?
Definitely.
An EGOT is someone who's won an Emmy, a Grammy, an Oscar, and a Tony.
Right. Okay.
There are only 19 of them.
Goodness.
Only 19 people have done that. Everyone will be Googling that to find out who they are. There are some surprises in there. John Legend's in there. So I didn't expect that. So anyway, good. So we've done the film. Lovely. Now, tomorrow is Hero Day. This is again in our fantasy cultural year. I've booked a restaurant in Paris. It's another Indian Bangladeshi fusion restaurant. Michelin starred. And you can invite anyone to have a leisurely lunch with, living or not, so that you can pose questions. And if you wish, you can add 2 more to that to make it a bit of a dinner party. Who's on the list?
I mean, I think I definitely have to have Dave Malloy on that list because the way his mind works in terms of writing musical theatre fascinates me to no end. So he would definitely be on that list.
Okay. Who would he get on with?
Who would he get on with? Lots of people, probably, to be perfectly honest.
You've just reinvented the game. Thank you so much. You choose the first person, okay? Then you have to choose somebody that you think that your person would like to meet, and then you have to think of a 4th.
Okay. Potentially someone such as possibly Tim Phillips. Again, another composer. Also works in musical theatre. Was part of the creative team for The Grinning Man. Again, has quite an interesting musical style, so I think they would have a lot to talk about in that.
Yeah. Okay. The last person around your table, I'm changing the rules again. I'm sorry. Has to have left us.
Okay.
I've got a couple of ideas. Said it's not my party though.
Indeed. Someone that's no longer with us.
Who both of those other guests would love to meet.
Somebody either musically related or just very, very interesting in terms of how they think about things. Sondheim, I think, would be someone that I would add to that list. Someone who's no longer Stephen Sondheim.
I've just Googled him. Isn't that weird? I've literally got his page up because I thought, I wonder if you'll choose Stephen Sondheim.
Yeah.
Leonard Bernstein would be a close second, I think, there.
Absolutely.
I met Leonard Bernstein when I was at Guildhall. He came and conducted us at the Symphony Hall in the Symphony Orchestra. We did a production of his Mass, which is huge, and very few organizations can afford to do it. Yeah. But yeah, he came and conducted a rehearsal. It must have been shortly before he died in kind of 85, 84.
Yeah.
That was great though. It was great. I was playing Timps in that. It was good. So you can have Stephen Sondheim. I really want to be a fly on the wall. I really do.
That would be incredible.
Yeah.
An conversation to be part
of. Now I think, did we do the music restriction question? I think I might have missed that one.
Oh no.
You got a note when you were traveling to I'll have to backpedal. When you're traveling to Paris,
yep.
you received a note from the wealthy family
Mhm.
in Bristol, asking you to restrict. They wanted to study the impact of this on you. They want you to restrict your musical listening to one very specific genre of music for the whole year, so at the exclusion of everything else, subject to what you hear in our magical performances. If you had to restrict your listening to one quite narrow genre of music, what would you choose?
I'd choose contemporary classical, but piano and violin, or piano and string based. So think Ludovico Einaudi, Max Richter, that sort of
Okay,
style of music.
nice. Sorry, I should have asked that at the start of the process, but that's good. Excellent. Contemporary, piano-based and strings.
Mhm.
Okay. Now, the next day is one of those lovely days that don't come around very often, where you wake up and you know with certainty that between waking up and putting your head back on the pillow later, you can do whatever you like all day. Okay. No chores, no jobs, no meetings, no family commitments, all your personal admin's up to date. You can have a helicopter, you can have a limo, you can have a guide, you can have a boat, but you can do anything you like in Paris for the day. What would you like to do?
I would absolutely start by having a walk along the River Seine, just taking in the people, the sights,
Yeah.
the noise and the hustle and bustle. I would spend at least half of the day doing whatever I could in the Louvre. I mean, you would end up needing to spend days and days if you wanted to see everything, but I would focus on the ancient Egypt element of
Mm,
the Louvre exhibition. So I'd certainly spend some time there. I'd people watch at some cafes
nice.
with my black coffee,
Yeah.
um, and try and find sort of the quiet little back alleys, you know, sort of where everything's a little bit still for a moment to just
Yeah.
find some peace.
Yeah, that sounds like a lovely way to spend a day in Paris. Okay, so you're nearly up. This has been your first sort of immersive week. You're going to spend a further year in Paris. You're going to go home fluent. You've become a bit of a celebrity in Paris while you're there. You've had book offers. You've had people want to turn your year into a romantic comedy. And because of the notes you've made, you're the screenwriter and the author, so it's your year. So but on the way home you get a note from the Bristolian family looking forward to hearing your very brief half-an-hour summary of your year. No PowerPoint slides necessary. And they've lifted the ban on the music listening, so
Right.
it no longer has to be piano-based, string, contemporary, classical. You can listen to any other music you wish. Now, what's the first track you'd want to listen to?
It would be it would be Brand New World of Feeling from the Grinning Man musical,
The
as
what?
sung by the Grinning Man musical. So it's based on the Victor Hugo novel, The Man Who Laughs.
Right. Love that. Well, that's your treat on the way home. So you're home, you go and meet the Bristolian family. They love the fact that you've done this, and you've had what I hope is a lovely year. Did you enjoy it?
It's fantastic. I want to do it again.
People have suggested setting up an arts and culture travel agency so I can make things like that happen. That would be fun.
Wouldn't that be amazing? Wouldn't
Yeah,
that?
it'd be great. So thank you so much, Sophie, for doing that. Wherever this appears, there'll be links to you and the organizations that you support. Thanks again for all that volunteering. Without people like you, it wouldn't work. So thank you so much. Don't run off, but for the purposes of wrapping up for our audience, please go and follow Sophie on LinkedIn and check out some of the organizations that she supports. You'll find links below. So Sophie, thank you so much for doing this. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
It's been an absolute pleasure.
And thank you for being a full member of our gang and helping it work.
absolutely, absolutely. Thank you.